Much. I'd like to thank Mr. Luthringer for allowing me and the Board of Education for allowing me the opportunity to publicly thank and honor these two young men for their outstanding contributions to our school. But before I go any further, I would like to surprise the boys, although the surprise got ruined a little bit. I'd like to surprise the boys by inviting some of the other members of the club who wanted to also join me in thanking Joe and Kyle for what they've done. We'd also like to thank Mr. Burrell for all of his contributions for the club in terms of his fishing expertise and his science knowledge. So thank you for Mr. Burrell for coming in as well.
Thank you.
As most of you know, we started a fishing club this year. And you may also know that the driving force behind the club was the two young men behind me, seniors Kyle Casabon and Joe Tornabene. What you may not know is that Kyle and Joe had no need for a fishing club. Kyle and Joe fish several times a week, several days a week, probably closer to 6 or 7 days a week. And they really didn't need me or the school or anything to get them out fishing. But these two guys wanted to start a fishing club because they knew they wanted to give something back. And that's really why I'm here. Halfway through their freshman year, the world was turned upside down. And during the pandemic, these two friends found an outlet. Fishing became their passion. And as we came out of the pandemic, they knew they wanted to pay it forward. They asked me for my help. And then the three of us went to see Mr. Kokoza, who loved the idea and supported us very quickly. From there, these two guys immediately started working to provide fishing opportunities for their peers. Their goal, their primary goal from day one, was to provide fishing lessons and opportunities for anyone who wanted them. In particular, they wanted to work with the younger kids and to teach them what they had learned. They quickly met their goals, which they will talk about in just a minute. And they have continued to work hard, laying the groundwork, not just for fishing, but for numerous water-related activities here on Lake George and all around the Adirondack region that they would love to see future Lake George students have the opportunity to participate in. For all those guys in the back, we appreciate all you did. We've had a great time. Thank you so much. To Joe and Kyle, boys, it's been so much fun. I don't know how to express that in words. And it's been such an incredible honor to work with you two this year. Thank you so much for all you've done. I'm so proud of you and so happy to be a part of it. Thank you. Thank you all.
Well, first off, I'd like to say thank you, Mr. Blabtree, for your kind words, and thank you to all you guys for showing up to the board meeting and listening to what we have to say about the club and our presentation about our year starting the fishing club. And I'll let Kyle start us off with our presentation here. So the fall club fair, that was the beginning of the fishing club. It's where all clubs start. And of course, we had our table along with many others, and we received great feedback from the club, a lot of interest from the younger students, which Kyle and I really enjoyed. As I said, Mr. Blabtree said, Kyle and I started fishing at a young age. We've loved it since we were kids. It's become a huge passion of ours, especially during COVID. So we had 50 students sign up for the club, which was a pretty high number. We were really excited to get that many students involved. And we had 30 kids join the Google Classroom and a strong student interest between all 7th through 12th graders, as you can see sitting in the audience here with us today.
So our first outing was November 9th, and we had a few members show up from all grades, and we fished right in the Lake George Village off the docks, which is public access. And
yeah, we had some of the kids catch their first ever fish. Some of their first fishing experiences they've ever had. And I know as a kid with my father, that was some of my favorite memories as a kid, fishing with my father and going out. And some people don't have that opportunities, and Kyle and I recognize that, to show kids the joy of fishing. Was really something that was dear to us. As you can see, we have some of these kids here. This is down on the village docks. These are pictures from that day. And the kids really had a great time. We got to show them how to tie different lures, how to do different techniques. And the kids really enjoyed it. It was really a great afternoon outing.
so we were interviewed by the Post-Star. It was actually me, Joe, and Madison Stark, who also helped out with us. And
From from this article that was posted, we had great interest, and we actually received a ton of donations of different gear that we were going to use from local fishermen that reached out to us that, were getting old, had some gear in the garage they weren't using and wanted to donate it to let the kids use. We were greatly appreciative of that and the publicity that article brought us many gear and opportunities to be able to fish and show students how to fish. Mr. Blabtree, myself, and Kyle also worked on a grant opportunity from the online stores Lose. So in this grant opportunity, we received 40% off of all fishing gear, including lures, tackle, all sorts of things. And we also received 18 brand new rods and reels completely free from Lose, which were pretty expensive rods and reels, totaling almost $1,800, which we were extremely grateful for. Just gave us the opportunity to go on many other fishing adventures.
So towards the winter, after we got all those donations, we didn't really want to fish on the ice because a lot of the students, they don't like being cold out on the ice. But that wasn't a problem for us because we had a casting clinic right out there, and we practiced casting for some of the students who didn't know how to use a fishing rod. We taught them how to use different types of fishing rods, and it was very fun for everyone.
So along with the casting clinics, we also had fishing clinics where he had guest speakers come in, professional fishermen who came in and spoke to us about fishing. On the left, you'll see Roger Hauk, who is a YouTube celebrity. He is a big YouTube fishing star who lives just about 35 minutes north of here. Kyle and I knew him on YouTube before we had the opportunity to get in touch with him in person. So this was really cool for us to see somebody that we watched on YouTube to be able to come in and speak for us. So it was a really cool opportunity. He taught us many great lessons on how to catch spring lake trout, different lures, different tactics that we had later implemented in the spring, which helped out a ton. We also had Addison Kelly just recently, just a few weeks ago, come in and talk about bass fishing for some of our more recent bass fishing clinics. ADK, or Addison Kelly, is Mr. Kelly's son, and he taught us many great lessons on how to catch bass, different lures, different techniques that we had later implemented.
So when we were out on the water, actually Chicks Marina was nice enough to let us use some of the boats. So a major thanks to Coach DePace. She was very nice to let us use them. And we implemented a lot of the techniques that Roger and Addison Kelly taught us. And Joe will tell you about that.
Yeah, and without Coach DePace and without the boats, I mean, I don't know how some of these great memories could have happened. I caught my second ever lake trout. I've been fishing forever, but it was just a great experience of catching lake trout with my friends, some of the faces you'll recognize here in the crowd. So we fished on 2 different boats, and we caught lake trout and bass together this spring. And we, as I said before, used many of the techniques that we learned in our fishing clinics. And we caught and released 25 fish on our last trip, which was just recently, just a few weeks ago. Some of these pictures are from earlier in the spring, and some of these pictures are from later in the spring, or they're most recent. And you can see those are 2 very nice sized lake trout on the bottom that we learned from Roger, and the bass on the right. We learned a lot of those tips from Addison Kelly.
And we released all the fish, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
So in the future, the fishing club really hopes to grow and expand through all different grades, which we already have. We would love to have more trips in the future, going out on boats and streams and walking around ponds. Eventually, we would like to have a water safety course because safety is really our main focus. If anything were to happen out on a boat or out on the water, that'd be very important to us to make sure all the students are safe.
Yes.
And getting a boat for the school district is definitely far future, but that is one of our main goals. And it wouldn't just be used for the fishing club. It would also be used for the science department, even like the history, some history classes. And do you want to add to that, Joe?
Yeah, I think, bass fishing and professional bass fishing is professional bass fishermen are scientists. They need to figure out water temperature, the activity of the fish, the biology of the fish, the ecosystem of the water. Understanding that helps you catch fish. So understanding the ecosystem of the lake or different places that you're fishing can tie in really into science. It can tie into history of the lake. So not only could a bass fishing club use this, or even science, history, the entire school could be able to utilize these opportunities to be able to teach students more about the environment, the history, and anything about the water. The limits are really endless. So yeah, I mean, that's that's been the fishing club. It's been the last year working with Kyle and Mr. Blabtree. I want to say thanks to you all for making this a reality and bringing something that Kyle and I love so much to be able to bring it to the school and share it with so many of you all. So,
And we're open to any questions if any of you
Yeah.
guys have any.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say that's a great presentation. And I just see like it's exciting to listen and hear about this club. And I think it just feels like it's going to blossom and really take Lake George a long way in like really positive direction. So thank you for your enthusiasm and efforts.
thank you so much. We agree. We hope it grows
Yeah.
and blossoms as well.
I have to say, I've been feeling a little choked up. I might get choked up. I mean, it's really, it's touching because, I mean, we have this great resource in our front yard of the beautiful Lake George. And on beyond, teaching the skills of fishing and the joy of fishing, you're promoting friendship and belonging.
Absolutely.
Sorry, this is really, it was a powerful presentation. Cheers.
No, Kyle and I have grown very close since fishing together. As Bishop Blabtree said, we're on the boat together almost 7 days a week. So we've grown really close and made some great friends, as you can see, sitting here. So even younger ones. So
Yeah. Well, thanks for spreading your joy and,
Thank you.
and bringing the community in. So
thank you so much.
I would just like to say, I can't get over how much you accomplished your first year. I mean, getting a club off the ground is not easy. And you guys, I mean, as you're doing the presentation, I was thinking, oh geez, maybe in the future they'll have like guest speakers and stuff. And then you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do guest, but I'm like, so. Yeah,
And you started
congratulations.
November
Well done.
9th. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, really, that's fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for everything.
I think it's great. Your leadership skills in this area just are incredible. Thank you so much for all you've done for your school.
So I say a round of applause.
Thank you.
Okay, Bonnie, I'm sorry you have to follow that. Sorry. Thanks, guys, for being here.
I know. I don't think we'll get.
I believe in you, Bonnie. So we have Miss Bonnie Hart here. She is going to talk to us about the Federal Grant Education Stabilization Fund update.
That's a
Thank
lot
you,
of
Bonnie.
words.
That's a lot of words.
Yeah, what do I hit? Okay. Well, thank you for having me present. I'm hoping this will go quick and painless. As a result of COVID, the pandemic, there was several different federal grant opportunities for education. What I have listed here is the name of the law that was passed, and then on the sub-bullet is the funding source. And you can see there's a lot of creativity here with the funding source. The first law was called the CARES Act, Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act. But then the funding source was abbreviated ESSER 1. And then the next act that was passed, the funding source is called ESSER 2. And then the third law that was passed, the funding source is called ESSER 3. We received funds from each of these laws. And since they're federal funds, New York State has already started going around to schools to review their records and make sure that these funds were allocated correctly and what they were intended for. Lake George will start our monitoring process this January. Part of the requirements is to look at the stakeholder engagement and look at how are we doing? What are we using these funds for? And are they working? And then eventually we talk about sustainability when the funds are no longer available. So a brief overview from the CARES Act, or the ESSER 1, that was several years ago. We've already received that. That funded a lot of the supplies we had to return back to school from the pandemic. So a lot of the CDC mandates of the the materials were funded through the CARES Act, as well as a small amount of salaries that was part of the reopening committee during the summertime, and some key personnel that were facilitators to each of the subcommittees that were required. The CRISA Act, which is what's currently going to be funding our summer HVAC project, all of those funds we received, just over $500,000 going towards new HVAC units. Those funds, the project will be completed this summer and closed out this fall. The big part of the monitoring process is the ARP Act, the funds that we received. 80% of those funds, which is just shy of $1 million, $942,000, is going towards the HVAC project as well. But 20%, at least 20%, needed to be allocated for learning loss as a result of COVID. And then you had to, in your proposal, discuss what those programs looked like, how would you evaluate them, so on and so forth. And that is a big part of the monitoring, that they will come in and look at every single, or we upload it, every single invoice, PO that was used this funding. So when I'm going to elaborate a little bit about that remediation piece, the first year was the 21-22 school year. And we had 3 programs that were funded through that. Sunrise Scholars, which is a before school tutoring, high dosage tutoring is what the state officially calls it. We call it Sunrise Scholars at the elementary school. Our summer remediation programs at both the elementary and junior, senior high school. And then the high dosage tutoring was both buildings. The first year it was heavily in the junior, senior high school, and I'll go into a little more depth of that. That year has come and gone, so we have been able to look at how did those kids do? Have they closed the gap? Did they maintain their levels? Did they, increase? Did they go backwards? Based on our data that we maintain. This current school year, those same 3 programs are being funded. We have a few other miscellaneous small summer programs, and then a tier 2 and interventionalist position, part-time. When we look at last year, each of these programs have different purposes. So Jumpstart occurring over the summer, we don't want that typical summer slide. So when we evaluated those students, we looked at where did they end in the spring and where did they fall in the when we came back to school. And we saw that 80% of our participants remained at or above their ending last year's iReady benchmark measures and their reading levels, their Fontes and Pinnell reading levels. Sunrise Scholars is during the school year, September to May, June. So we're not looking about the summer slide, we're looking to see is there growth? Are these students making growth? And again, we saw great, this was 21-22, great growth on that and I just highlighted a few things here for the targeted monitoring. I have a lot of stuff for them to review. But on iReady, pardon me, and reading, the participants who partook in Sunrise Scholars showed a median growth of 188%, which is huge, almost 2 years growth. And then in math, it was slightly lower, but it was still 123% growth. The high dosage tutoring, which is primarily at the secondary level, that had a different focus. It had two purposes. One was a day-to-day, week-to-week support. Some was short-term, some was long-term support for students. And then we also had a lot of focus on the Regents exam prep. As a result of COVID, the state came out with a lot of, if this occurs, then you could do this with Regents exams for the graduation requirements, and issued exemptions, issued special appeals. So, and they end supposedly this August. So we want to take advantage of that for our students that may struggle to get one of those Regents exam requirements or two. We did a lot of one-on-one or two-on-one intense dosage, high dosage tutoring. And in January, we had great success for the first half of the year. 6 out of 7 of the students ended up getting either the special appeal or passing it without even having the appeal. So we're really happy with that. Another part of this targeted monitoring is continual evaluation from all stakeholders. So we did survey our parents for those children that took, were participants in one of those or all of those 3 programs. You learn from this and what you need to adjust moving forward. Sent the survey out at the end of the year for all of the programs and asked for feedback. It was very, very positive. They're linked here, you could always see, but a very small sample responded despite my constant reminders. So moving forward, we will send them at the culmination of the program. So after our summer programs this summer, in the fall, we'll send it out. So hopefully it's fresh and we get a higher response on that. So moving forward, this coming school year is the last year of the federal grant money. So moving forward throughout this year, we need to review, maintain our records. There's a tremendous amount of paperwork that is required and forms that need to be submitted, engage the feedback, continue to review our programs. But then this year, a focus is going to be, how do we sustain? When this money is no longer available, are we going to look at different ways, or did it serve its purpose and we no longer need that program? So that will be a focus as well this coming year, along with the paperwork and the evaluation. That's it. Any questions?
Oh, but that was wonderful. Thank you. Very informative. But Bonnie, I was wondering, so you were saying the state will be coming in and looking at everything. So what happens if a school isn't using the funding correctly or is found not to have I mean, what's the repercussion?
Well, so they give you an opportunity to just to produce more evidence. So I've met with schools that have already gone through this process, much larger funds than what Lake George received. And they started in December and they just finished. And there's different levels of review. There's desk level. We have the one in the middle where we submit it virtually and do virtual meetings. And then on-site is the most significant. So they could say it's misappropriation of funds. I'm sure that has happened, but they give you opportunities during the process to do amendments. So if we see, oh, this funding, we thought, we didn't know when we did these
Right.
proposals, we gave our best estimate, but we were way over or we were way under. We have opportunities of saying, no, now we're going to use this money in another way.
Got it. Oh, thank you.
My one question you answered at the very end about sustaining or did it serve its purpose? So that y'all are evaluating that. So thank you.
I've got a question. On the first slide, it says we will be required to provide evidence to ensure programmatic equitable services to private school and fiscal compliance. What does that mean that we need to be equitable to private schools?
So there's a process that we, for the CARES Act, had to send out letters to the private schools that our students attended. We don't have any within the district. If we did, that would be another thing. And they had to attest to collaboration over funds. And there's another piece, it's a whole separate piece, but then they, if they wanted funding, then they lose some tuition money. So they often refuse some funding. So.
Anybody else? Thank you very much, Bonnie.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the elementary update with Mr. Jim Conway, elementary school principal.
Well, I'm glad I didn't follow the fishing club. I also feel bad because I wanted to congratulate them and Mr. Bleibtree. I mean, it's great. While I didn't work with those two young men that spoke, they were not at our elementary school. A lot of the other boys that were there with them were. And that student voice, it's great that kids have that voice in this junior, senior high school. I mean, that's an awesome thing. And that's exactly what we were celebrating at our leadership assembly that some of you were at on Friday, that we want students to have voice, to understand how to set goals, to come up with plans, and to make things happen. So that was great. And last Friday, again, like I was mentioning, we did celebrate leadership. And I know that Katie and Rosemary were able to be there and witness some of that. And so thank you for doing that, as well as Mr. Luthringer. And we had both mayors, recently retired Mayor Blaze and Mayor Perry, who were both there speaking to our kids. So it was wonderful that they both were able to attend. But also, as you were able to see, our children have a really good understanding of the habits, the 7, now 8 habits. And then, they shared some of those leadership experiences that they had. So I was really proud of our students on that day and the achievements throughout the school year. Flag Day tomorrow. The weather, we're thinking, is going to cooperate with us, but at 8:15 tomorrow, if you'd like to join us in a patriotic celebration of Flag Day, it's an annual school-wide event for us, and we're looking forward to that. End of the school year in both buildings is just so busy. We could go on with long lists of everything that's happening, but I do want to note a couple of items. On Friday, this year, we are sending our 6th graders on a trip to Silver Bay, something we have not done before. Again, weather, we're hoping cooperates, but the day is going to include kayaking, canoeing, archery, various team building activities. And it's a first for our 6th graders. So we're hoping that all works out. Our moving up ceremony is next Thursday at 7 p.m. at the elementary school. Hopefully some of you will be able to attend. We have 56 students that are going to move up and become 7th graders heading to Mr. Kokoza. And then finally, just some things over the summer. We are hosting our summer jumpstart program, and Bonnie mentioned that and the impact that it has on our students. So, as always, I thank our board for supporting those programs for us. And it does certainly help prevent that summer slide, but it's for 3 weeks, 8 to 10:30. Kids get a solid dose of ELA and math each morning. And we also, that last week of August, the 21st through 25th, last week of our Jumpstart program, kids can leave the Jumpstart program and go to our STEM camp. And we run the STEM camp from 10:45 to 4 p.m. And again, everything is going to be here at the junior, senior high because of the work that's going on down at the elementary school. But we're excited to be able to continue to provide those opportunities for our kids. So that is it, short, sweet, and there's lots more that's going on. Questions?
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you, Jim. Next item on the agenda is the secondary update with Mr. Frank Kokoza.
Hi,
the
good
secondary
evening.
principal.
As the elementary school, there's a lot of things going on at the junior, senior high school as well. Yesterday, yesterday, we honored our senior athletes as they end being Lake George athletes and move on to post-secondary life. So it was a beautiful ceremony run by our athletic director. This Thursday, we have our senior art show at 5 o'clock and the middle school departmental awards at 5 o'clock as well, along with our senior high award ceremony at 6:30. So that's this Thursday if you're available. Next Tuesday is our senior scholarship night at 6 o'clock in the auditorium, in which we have the pleasure as a small school to give out a lot of money to our graduating class. So that's Tuesday at 6. And then, of course, Saturday, June 24th at 9 o'clock is our graduation commencement ceremony, in which we'll be graduating, hopefully not our last large class, but the largest class in a while that will be graduating. 65 graduates will be walking the stage. to be replaced by 56 seventh graders. FBLA, shortly after graduation, will be traveling to Atlanta, Georgia to compete at the national level in Atlanta. So we wish our FBLA the best of luck. And as Jim alluded to, the summer is going to be very busy here at the junior senior high school. The elementary programming and the high school programming for the summer will concurrently occur in this building, along with our annual hosting of the Youth Commission programming for the town rec. So the high school this summer will be a busy, busy place, and we're really excited about that. Jim, Megan, and I just want to send two huge appreciations. One to Lynn Durway. Lynn, as you wrap up your second time here with us, your wisdom, your care, your knowledge, your priceless experiences. When you were originally here, you positioned Lake George Central School District very well. And then you left, and then you came back. And the fruits of your labor from your original work here are still being paid off today. And we know the 2 years that you've been with us now, you have repositioned Lake George Central Schools extremely, extremely well and left it in incredible hands under your mentorship. And Lynn, you will be greatly missed. So we appreciate you a lot. And it's no small feat under the guidance of Dr. Huntley and also the guidance of Superintendent Luthringer that Lynn was able to move forward the bus garage proposition to completion, which is something our district has desperately needed. So thank you, Lynn. And the second thank you to John Luthringer as you wrap up your first year in the Lake George schools. Megan, Jim, and I are so appreciative of your leadership, your collegiality, your honesty, and your guidance. And we are so very pleased for the future of Lake George schools in your hands, with the guidance of the support of Bonnie as she comes on board. But John, thank you. Thank you for everything this school year. It's been a great year. And I know that Jim, Megan, and I are very excited to begin our new work with Chris Mondella as he takes on the CSE role, and Leanne as the secretary of that office, and Bonnie as she transitions from the classroom into a new arena. So we're excited for Bonnie. This has been a great year, and as the high school principal and also a Lake George resident, I'll be a proud papa on Saturday along with my colleague across the hall here as we have our little kids who are no longer little graduating on Saturday along with their classmates. We'll run the ceremony as we normally do. The Board of Ed, Madam President, you'll take the lead with handing out diplomas, and then as various relationships with specific graduates, you'll coordinate that. And for those who haven't been on the stage, you'll reset them. So the smooth operation that we have keeps us under an hour, but also keeps that special uniqueness of our ceremony. So I don't know if there's any questions about Greg.
A quick question, because a couple of people have asked me, the youth commission, is that at the bus garage or is it here?
Here in the gymnasium for the better part of the past 5 years, 5 or 6 years, pre-COVID. Everything before COVID is kind of a blur. So pre-COVID, we moved with the town support and the school district support, the youth commission into the gymnasium. So the Pee-wee program, which name is escaping me right now, the PEP program is over at Caldwell, and then the older little kids are over in the gymnasium.
Thank you.
8 years. Yeah. And they are self-sufficient. There are many days that we don't even realize that there's, nearly 80, 60 kids, 100 kids in the gymnasium. And on beautiful days, they walk down to the beach at noontime. So it's a great program, and we're very pleased that our school district supports the town program. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report with Mr. John Luthringer.
So I think I'll continue the theme that these are tough acts to follow tonight, starting with fishing club and then Mr. Kokoza and Mr. Conway's report. Thank you so much. It truly has been a wonderful year. I can't say enough about our team, our teachers, our staff members, our building and grounds, our food service, our nurses, just really our entire staff has really come together this year and within the best interest of our students. And we've moved a lot of things forward this year, and it's been really a wonderful year. So it's hard to believe that it's coming to a close here so rapidly, but it is, and here we are. And our goal is to close out the year on a strong note and certainly end on a safe and successful note, culminating with graduation. And I've had the pleasure of attending the first rehearsal, and I know there'll be more. And Mr. Kokoza is certainly getting our students ready and prepared for that wonderful accomplishment in a couple weeks. So we look forward to that. I do have a few updates for the board here. One of them has been talked about a couple times already here, but we do just want to mention again, we do have quite a bit of work going on this summer. Actually, a tremendous amount of work. Some of it is related to univents and HVAC, and some of it's related to just aesthetics and work that we need to get done and painting and sort of that normal summer work. As when our teachers and staff go away, that's really the busiest time of year for our building and grounds and our maintenance staff. And there's a very, very long list of things that need to get accomplished this summer. But as Mr. Conway mentioned here, the elementary school will be closed. We are installing all new univents, rooftop univents, classroom univents as part of the HVAC project. And the reason that we have to close the school is because there is asbestos and abatement involved in each of those. So we have a very systematic plan and approach to that this summer. Limited personnel will be allowed in the building. And as they've all said, everything will be here. So we'll all be here together. It'll be a good opportunity to continue our collaboration throughout the summer. There will be additional univents installed in the high school as well, roughly 9. And that will not impact any summer programming here, as there's no abatement involved in any of those, especially when students are here. So Jumpstart and STEM Camp and any summer school opportunities will all be out of this building, and we look forward to that. I did want to just mention one of the projects that we've been working on all year, really under the leadership of Mrs. Coker here, is in regards to our robotics program. And I just want to, I mentioned this in Thursday themes, and we have a very robust robotics program here in Lake George, certainly especially with our high school students in our VEX robotics program. We also have First Lego League in our elementary school. And one of the things that we started this year is we really took a close look at aligning K-12 and how can we align that and giving kids a kind of an experience that builds from one to the next and the next. So really we worked with our advisors, Mr. Strobel, Mr. Saletti, and Mr. Bizon in the elementary, really all year to come up with a really continuum of VEX robotics. So we are going to transition away from First Lego League in the elementary to what's called VEX IQ. It's really the elementary and sort of middle level of VEX robotics. And we feel really great about our continuum that we built because, again, it creates really clear, consistent expectations and a pathway for our students that builds upon one year to the next. So almost like in athletics where you've got sort of a modified and a JV and a varsity, each level will build on it. So our elementary students, all of our students will experience that as part of the high potential class, but then there'll still be a club component similar to First Lego League, and that will participate in some local competitions that we'll have regionally. And then we'll have our middle school program as well, which will be VEX IQ, and that will be, just a little bit, we're going to build on it. So regional competitions and then go into the state level. And then of course our high school program where they've gone to Worlds for 5 straight years. So we're really excited about it. It's something that is come together this year. There'll be a big launch that we're going to do in the fall through open houses. So we're really excited about our opportunities for our kids and really having one consistent robotics program. So that was one thing I wanted to mention. More to come on that because we've really just closed that chapter the last couple weeks. I do have a nickname update here in regards to our work around a new nickname. So tonight, as the board knows, the board is required to by the New York State regulation to act on a resolution. So I'll be reading that resolution tonight and recommending board approval for that. But in regards to our process here, we had our meeting after last week with our student advisory group in regards to the different phases. And phase one, as you remember, we put out to the community 2 historical names that are part of our history or choose a new nickname. And it was really essentially a tie. So the nickname Georgians had the least amount of votes, but then it was essentially a tie between Lakers and choosing a new nickname. So when we presented all of that data to our student advisory group, they felt strongly that we needed to go to phase 2, which was going out for a community call for ideas and suggestions that the community might have at this point. So we did put out a survey. As part of that meeting, we did develop guiding principles here, which I'm going to read in a second. But as part of the survey here, we've had about 200 responses. So we're getting great responses. That survey does close on June 28th. And then we'll come back July 6th with our student advisory group. We're going to take a close look at those. They're going to decide on which ones to put forward based on these guiding principles. And then there'll be a final survey this summer, throughout the summer, through probably middle of August. We're still working on dates for that. And by September 1st, our goal is to have a new nickname. So that final survey will be the final one. And really the results of that survey will dictate the nickname of choice for the community. One of the things that we did do in that was develop the nickname guiding principles on how they were going to choose the ones to put forth for the final survey. And I just want to read these because I think they're really well done. Again, these are from our students, and this is what's going to guide them in taking the bigger number of suggestions and paring them down. So one of the first guiding principles is to represent the entire student body while embodying the positive traits and qualities of our students, honor our local history, school traditions, and acknowledge the school connection to our region, promote school pride and generate excitement, reflect our entire community and reflect the district's create values while meeting the requirements of the current New York State regulation, align to identifiable branding and existing school colors, and be unique but not incredibly obscure. So these are the 6 principles that the student advisory group will use to pare down the suggestions with the goal of putting back out 3 or 4 nicknames, but one of those will absolutely include the Lakers. The students felt very passionately that because of the support in the initial survey, Lakers should move forward to the final. So more to come on that. As the other, as Mr. Conway and Mr. Koza also said, it is end of the year. It's rapidly approaching. I've had the pleasure of attending a number of events. The Senior Ball last week, which is a wonderful event at this Fort William Henry. We had the Senior Athletic Awards, Scholarship Awards coming up. Moving up ceremony, Mr. Conway, that'll be a great one as well. Flag Day tomorrow. Just so many wonderful opportunities to gather, reflect on the year, think about the great things that have gone on here in Lake George. And I'm really excited to attend them all. So it'll be my first Flag Day experience tomorrow, and I've only heard wonderful things about that day. And then finally, I just want to echo what Mr. Koza said. So this is Lynn Durway's final board meeting, and I want to share a little bit about my experience with Lynn. So we've been together this year, and Lynn and I have, there's many times where I go into her office and I said, "You got a minute?" And I do that all the time, probably too much. But I sit down and we kind of go through things. And we've really been a partner this year. I really have learned and grown from your knowledge, your wisdom, and you're certainly sorely going to be missed. We're certainly excited for the future. And I joked with Lynn recently. I said, "Lynn, I don't know if you're retiring. You've retired. I know you're retired, but knowing Lynn a little bit here, I know she's not going to be done, and there's always going to be something on the horizon or something fun and exciting for her to do." So I've joked, should we say departing with gratitude or something like that? But Lynn, you are going to be missed, and I wish you all the best in whatever you decide to do in the next phase of your life. And we've really certainly appreciated your guidance, leadership, wisdom, and certainly knowledge of budgeting and the business, all the business office things that happen. And certainly that has really helped me this year. So thank you so much, Lynn, and I appreciate your help. That's all I have.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Our next item on the agenda is the Audit and Finance Committee report. Mario Basulo is the chair of that committee, and we'll give that report.
Thanks, Katie. We reviewed the Treasury report for March and April. We received in the state aid a total of $471,000. BOCES aid was about $85,000, and interest in $55,000 from March and about $54,000 from April. The state aid was all about general aid, excess cost, homeless students aid, textbook, library aid, and lottery grant aid. We also received the reimbursement from Warren County of $1.1 million. One of the things that I learned doing this is, and we're very fortunate that when people owe their school taxes, it doesn't fall on us to collect it. It falls on the county. So April 1st, the county has to reimburse us, and the county goes after anybody that has not paid their school taxes. So fortunately for us, that works out in our favor where we don't have to chase anybody down. The claim auditors report was also reviewed for March and April. There was a little bit of a conversation around the professional development that we did over at the Marriott. The auditor that did that had questions about it, but through the conversation, we realized several things. One, it had to be done because it was part of our contractual agreement. And the cost that we incurred, we would have had to incur here at the school, bringing in staff and food and things like that for them. And what we heard from a few months ago when people spoke about it is it was a great event, and it was definitely well worth having it offsite. Bonnie did a great job going through. The only thing I want to point out from her slide that she didn't talk about was the money that we received. We spent a lot of it on HVAC that we're not going to have to worry about down the road. Where when you talk to other school boards, districts, I remember Scott said it a couple of times because he represents a bunch of schools that he goes to. They spent their money on salaries and new positions, and when the funds are gone, that school has to figure out how to the amount of funds that we need to sustain some of these programs are minimal compared to what we got in. So I think that was a great, again, it's having that long-term thinking to put the school in a good position where we're not looking for funds to maintain positions. And I think that's something Lynn has done, which we've talked about. And I'm very confident that Bonnie's going to do the same. We need that long-term thinking to put ourselves in a good spot. Scott came in. I can never pronounce his last name. Person, I mean, seriously, someday I'll get it. To talk about the audit plan for next year. He talked about his planning, just a letter, the time frame. It was very thorough. We worked with Scott for a long time, so I'm confident in what the work he's going to do for us. And that was it.
Does anybody have questions? Thank you, Mario.
Thanks for
Good, no problem.
reminding us about that with our, how we spent, how the funds.
The next item on the agenda is the Building and Grounds Committee report with Janine Bieber, who is the chair of that committee.
All right. Our last meeting was at the beginning of May. And the first thing we did, I just took a minute to review finally a formal committee charge. Actually, the charge was recommended and written by Miriam McKenzie, and we decided not to change any of what she wrote. So the charge is written as to foster an atmosphere that maximizes student educational excellence and success by ensuring that the district's facilities, grounds, and transportation supports are safe, maintained, and intended to with thoughtful care and responsible planning. So who could change anything with that? Yeah, thank you. Other than that, our facilities director gave an update, a general update about the state of our district and what he's been focusing on with staff and with the district. Mainly, he had 3 goals, safety being the foremost, and then obviously compliance, and then beautification, which has, been so apparent already in how the campuses have been taken care of and how they look. Another discussion had to do with where we were with the HVAC project, and between Bonnie and John and Mario, that you've pretty much covered what we discussed at that meeting. And then lastly, at that meeting, Tetra Tech representatives gave us a presentation on the updated schematic design for the new transportation facility, which I found really exciting because it was that next bumped up level where you could really start seeing, wow, this is what it is going to look like. But also, talked about decisions that had to be made about heating systems, which I know have been made, et cetera, and steps that will be taken as the next couple of years go on. So very exciting to see the design. And that was our last Buildings and Grounds meeting. So.
Any questions? Thank you, Janine. The next item on the agenda is the Policy Committee report with Mary Ann McKenzie, who is the chair of that committee.
Okay. So this evening we have got, as you can see, 11 policies moving on to second read. Each of those was discussed at last month's board meeting. And there are 7 policies additionally moving to first read. Each of those policies came before the policy committee by way of our Lake George manual review process. And the one policy I will comment on, 6151, drug-free workplace. We are recommending a couple of revisions, minor, but just clarifying revisions really to make a distinction. Controlled substances refer to unlawful controlled substances, so we added that word. And also there was some clarifying language around the mechanism under federal regulations that the district would use to certify that it is indeed providing a drug-free workplace. The rest of the policies moving forward had nothing more than minor language cleanup, wordsmithing, revision suggestions. And that's my report. Our next meeting is in September. Any questions?
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is our first of 2 public comment sessions. And I would just like to, before we start that, read just our little monthly blurb about public comment. The Lake George Central School District Board of Education welcomes district residents, parents, and other interested persons to its meetings. Community involvement at board meetings is encouraged so that the board can better understand and represent the views of its constituents. Please be aware that by law, individual student information or particular personnel issues cannot be discussed at public sessions of the board. Please tell us your name, and when you come to the microphone, statements are limited to 3 minutes. The board and district staff take public comments very seriously, and careful notes of questions and concerns will be taken so that they can be addressed as soon as possible. If anyone is attending virtually and you have a comment or a question, please send an email to boe@lkgeorge.org, and the board members and the superintendent, John Luthringer, will be able to view those emails after the meeting. The first public comment period is for items on the agenda. Thank you in advance for helping to maintain a safe and respectful decorum for our meeting. If for some reason you didn't have the opportunity to sign the public comment paper, you are still welcome to participate in public comment. We do this just so that we have a list of who has spoken, and it helps us get back to people more easily. So we have one person who has signed up, and that is Mike Gates.
Good evening, Mike Gates. I live in the district, have 2 students in this school itself. I wanted to speak tonight, came to the meeting to speak in regards to the warrior name. I know your resolution is up tonight that you're going to vote on. In the research that I've done, I can't say 100%, but Mahason and Stillwater are keeping their warrior names, is what I'm being told. In that, I know in your resolution, you're pretty much caving in right from the bat. I respectfully ask that you put some sort of caveat in there. Whereas, however, if the warrior name is adopted by any other school district or approved by the Board of Education, we will retain that name. Don't close that door totally. Leave yourself that out. Again, I have my personal opinion on this. And I would just respectfully ask that somebody make a motion from the floor just to add that appropriate language. That in case it is approved, we didn't just cut our nose off to spite our face. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone else who would like to speak who didn't sign up? You just let us know your name.
My name is Bob Flanagan, 22 Nottingham Drive in Queensbury. I'm submitting a typed version of my thoughts tonight to Madam President in that they're a little lengthy and beyond my 3-minute. Thank you. I hope the type version will be part of the minutes of tonight's meeting. I will be talking about the vagueness of the Lake George School District Policy 7552 and the consequences of that vagueness as determined by the U.S. Supreme Court. I refer you to case law citations, Skilling versus the United States. That's 130 SCT 2896 in the year 2010. Now let's look at the vagueness of the Lake George School District identity policy, gender identity policy. Per that policy, and I quote, gender means actual or perceived sex and includes a person's gender identity or expression. That's 4 different things under one word. The words actual sex are used in your definition are not defined at all. We presumably are to infer that actual sex is the assigned sex, but the policy doesn't specify it. The words perceived sex can be the sex perceived by an individual on one day and may well differ by that individual and that perception on a different day. The words perceived sex can alternately be a perception by a teacher on one day, perceived by a coach on the same day, or perceived by anyone else. Which arbitrary definition shall I choose today? The school board's definition of gender also includes gender expression. Thus, I can wear a wig and identify as a female, or I can remove it and enter a boys' locker room. No time requirement is specified. No degree of expression is defined. Your words in the policy that the student consistently assert themselves are undefined and meaningless. Because of the vagueness of the Lake George School District policy, that policy is void and cannot be enforced. If the board attempts to enforce that policy, that attempt can be challenged in court. I would advise you to read Skilling. I would advise you to quantify the male testosterone level at 2 nanograms per liter of blood for a period of 2 years before a transgender woman can join a girls' sports team. Inasmuch as your policy is now void, each board member is hereby notified that their immediate responsibility is to inform each teacher, each staff member, or administrator of their legal jeopardy. I would advise this school board to rewrite the policy with a copy of Webster's in one hand and a definition of epistemology in your mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Do we have any other comments?
I just want to let you know that Lynn Clark, resident of Lake George, there's a document that just came out with State Ed Department creating a safe, supportive, and affirming school environment for transgender and gender evasive students, expansive students, excuse me. This is the 2023 legal update for best practices. This particular document is recommendation only, not mandated. So I seriously, and they warn school boards to consider what they're doing, age appropriate, and consult lawyers before they put programs in place. Just saying.
Thank you, Linda. Is there any other public comments this evening?
Hi, Brandy Tennyson. I just wanted to find out if there's a way when we do the surveys to get confirmation that you actually submitted? Like, because I'm just curious when that comes out. I always wonder, does it go in or not?
Thank you, Brandy. Is there any other public comment in this section? Okay. Thank you to those who spoke this evening so far. The next part of the board meeting is the school business, and the next item on the agenda is the school business consent agenda.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Lake George Central School District hereby approves the school business consent agenda items A through L. In summary, item A is a motion to approve the minutes from the meetings, previous board meetings, the previous two. One of them is the election item in the budget vote. Item B is a motion to approve the June 2023 recommendations for Committee on Special Education. Item C is a motion for treasurer's report and extracurricular activities shared tonight already by Mr. Fasulo. Item D is a motion to approve the claims auditor's report. Item E is a motion to approve the athletic training services for the school district. Item F is a motion to approve, this is an annual motion regarding fund balance. Item G is a motion, the voters did approve the bus resolution, and this item allows us to proceed with next steps. Item H is a motion to approve the policies for second read. Item I is a motion to authorize a budget transfer of $130,000. This is in regards to a student with disabilities. Item J is a motion to create the position of school secretary in the competitive class of the civil service effective July 1st, 2023. Item K is a motion to authorize the administration to submit an application to Section 2 in regards to merger for Lake George Central School District and Queensbury Union Free School District to form a singular hockey team for the 2023-24 hockey season. Item L is a motion to nominate Kathy Lewis to serve a 2-year term as the Area 7 Director for the New York State School Boards Association commencing January 1st, 2024.
Second. Any discussion or question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bear with me as I will read this entire resolution. As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the following resolution. Whereas the New York State Education Department, otherwise known as NYSED, issued a memorandum to all school districts in New York State on November 17th, 2022, stating its consistent opposition to the use of Native American mascots by school districts in New York. And in its memorandum, NYSED stated that should a school district fail to affirmatively commit to replacing its Native American team name, logo, and or imagery by the end of the 22-23 school year, the school district may be in willful violation of the Dignity for All Students Act. And in its memorandum, NYSED stated that the penalties for such a violation include the removal of school officers and the withholding of state aid. And in December 2022, following the issuance of the memorandum, a proposed regulation was presented to the New York State Board of Regents to formally memorialize the prohibition against the use of indigenous names, logos, or mascots by public school districts in New York, which is expected to become effective as permanent rule on May 3rd. Whereas the proposed regulation provides that boards of education must commit by resolution to eliminating the use of all indigenous names, logos, and mascots by the end of the 22-23 school year, and that such resolution must identify a plan to eliminate all use of the prohibited name, logo, or mascot within a reasonable time, which shall be no later than the end of the 2024-25 school year. Whereas the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District has previously used an indigenous name, logo, or mascot, and the Board of Education would like to eliminate its use of the indigenous name, logo, or mascot, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education commits to the school district eliminating the use of all indigenous names, logos, and mascots by the school district. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education directs the school district superintendent of schools to develop a plan in furtherance of this resolution no later than the end of the 22-23 school year to eliminate all use of the prohibited name, logo, or mascot within a reasonable time thereafter, which shall be no later than the end of the 2024-2025 school year.
Thank you, John. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
A second? And does anyone, yeah, oh, yes, absolutely, yeah. Well, usually we do the motion, the second, and then discussion. Does anyone want to make a motion for the change suggested by community member Mike Gates?
My question goes towards.
Okay, so if you wanted, yes.
I guess I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
For discussion, yes, go for it.
So reading through this thing, what you just read, right? This motion or proposal, whatever it is. What I think I like about it is like saying, we're going to eliminate the use of any indigenous name, logo, mascot without specifying warrior. So if the state at some point, if there was some lawsuit and the state said, okay, we changed our mind, you can use warrior as long as you don't use an Indian symbol or whatever, or Native American symbol, then we could use warrior, like according to this, because we're just saying we're not gonna use anything that is indigenous, blah, 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 blah. So if some other school, if there's a lawsuit that says we should be able to use warriors because there's lots of different warriors, then that kind of leaves it open, right? Like, is this the loophole that like Mr. Gates is asking for, kind of? Does anybody follow what I'm saying? This doesn't say warriors in it. It just says we won't use any indigenous. And I know the state right now is saying warriors is indigenous if you used it with a
Yes.
Native American thing before. I get that right now we cannot use warriors. But if there is some kind of change over the next year and the state backs off that, this proposal would allow us to reconsider. Yes?
There's two things, Donna, that I see. A, that's how I read it as well.
Okay.
And B, also, I think if we do vote for this,
Mhm.
down the road, we can always amend it.
It
We
leaves
can
it-
always go back.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see that we're
That's
never
how
going
I'm
to use
how
warriors
I'm
either.
seeing it.
So
And I will give an update. There's an article in the Daily Gazette from Schenectady, actually dated today, that Mahanason, Niskuna, and another district are beginning to rebrand, their rebranding process, including the name of the word warrior. But it is good to know that, down the line, there's, if anything changes, the way it's worded, disability.
I think we should absolutely go forward with what we're doing with the
Yeah.
mascot and the surveys, but I also think this doesn't pin us in 100%. So that's why I do like this
The language.
proposal.
Yeah.
The language is
in here.
written, yeah.
I'm happy to comment.
I think, I've got a few things that I want to bring up because I did attend the community forum and it was very powerful. It was very powerful to hear the voices of many people who have such connection to this name, this mascot, this spirit. And I get concerned a little bit about the those who feel that this change disincludes or disenfranchises or creates a sense of non-belonging or even that something was wrong. And I think that more work needs to be done. I agree with this resolution for many reasons, but I want to go forward with the caveat that I think that we have not been clear about the why behind it. I think I had a conversation with some of you, but I recently learned that many children have been told by their parents that it's illegal to turn the light on in the car when they drive. And I thought that was odd. Okay. I thought that was odd because I thought the more compelling reason not to turn the light on in the car when you drive was because you could obscure somebody's vision. It would be dangerous. Right. But parents say, oh, I just say that because it's the easier thing to say. And I feel like we're doing that in this situation. It's the easier thing to say, oh, we're doing this resolution because we have to. We're doing this resolution because the commissioner wants this. And I want to point out that I'm not voting on this because I have to. I'm not voting on this because I think that it's somebody in authority has an opinion. I'm planning to vote for this because I believe it aligns with our mission, our vision, our values. I believe that the Dignity for All Students Act is valid and important. I also believe that voting for this aligns with several other policies that we have. I don't believe that that's opinion. I think that that is something we've already stated and can educate around. I think it's fine if parents want to take the easy way to tell a child something to get a result, because we know parents have a hard life and they have a lot of things to explain. But I think that we in education have a responsibility to teach to the why and take every opportunity to do so. And I think if we go forward with this, then we should be fully behind the process of choosing a name that will unify the entire district. I also would say that I understand from being around this conversation for a while and from some of the things that were said at the community forum that we probably have a lot more people who feel strongly about this than spoke up. And we likely have a lot of people who work in the district that don't truly understand or can't speak to the why behind what's going on. And I think that is really important that we do so, that we have conversation collegially first to be able to understand more deeply and not just say, we're doing it because we have to. Dig a little bit deeper. I recognize the importance of this because I compare it to something in my own life. I compare this idea of perpetuating a stereotype to my own experience thinking about how I was brought up as a young woman. And there was a single story early on for women about what women could be. And there was a single image about what women could be. And there wasn't anything wrong with women being categorized as a caregiver, for example, but there is something wrong with that only being categorized that way. And I think that that is the easiest way that I can explain how and why I support this, because it brings us beyond a single story. And I just think we need to explore that a little bit more.
I agree with everything you just said, Tricia. That was really well stated. And I just want to add to it a little bit and just say, yes, our mission, vision, and values, this resolution is in alignment with it. And all of that and everything that we do is centered around how we care for students. And I love that the criteria that the Student Advisory Committee has put out, you know, they're asking important questions that tie back to the mission, vision, and values, you know, whatever the name and image is. We want to know that we can, you know, be behind it and for everybody. We want everybody to be able to feel good about it and feel proud of it. And I also want to take a shout out for some of the people who this shift is going to be really hard for. Change is really hard. And I think one person at the community forum said, you know, I don't know where I fit if these images that I've, you know, been attached to and I feel proud of, you know, we all fit right here. This is our community. We can feel proud about how we navigate change together and take care of each other. And I feel really good about this process. And so that's it. Thank you.
And I know that we've had some feedback about some of the things that we're displaying. And I just want to say to this board and to Mr. Luthringer that I will fight hard to keep our heritage and the image in the historic context and with that, the messaging of the why of the change. And so I don't seek to cancel anything. We can preserve our history and we can be proud of our history and our heritage, and we can move forward.
Thank you. Everybody? Anybody have any other questions, discussions? Thank you so much, everybody, for the comments. Have been helpful. So we've already had our motion, our second, so now it's all in favor of this resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the establishment of the fishing club, which we had a lovely presentation. That was our opening event.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the establishment of the position of fishing club advisor to the extracurricular and co-curricular list as outlined by memorandum of understanding between the Lake George Central School District and the Lake George Education Association.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Any questions?
I just want to say that I read this on the agenda and I'm like, oh, yes. And now I look at it and after that presentation, I say, oh, yes.
So that would be a joyful second, right? Any other discussions, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the action to accept donation of the augmented reality sandbox.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby accepts the donation of an augmented reality sandbox from the Lake George Association. The estimated value is approximately $8,000.
Do you have any questions? Any discussion? I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that and
Yes, it's very
getting to play there, getting to play in the sandbox. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next section is the faculty staff recognitions, and up first in that category is the faculty staff resignation consent agenda.
As recommended that superintendent be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the faculty staff resignation consent agendas items A through E as presented.
Do you have any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item is faculty staff appointment consent agenda.
Before the resolution, just want to remind the board that these positions here, the resignations and then the appointments are for existing personnel that are shifting positions within the district. As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the faculty staff consent agenda items A through J. Item A is a motion to appoint Jessica Egan to a 4-year probationary appointment as elementary teacher in the elementary education tenure area. Item B is a motion to appoint Catherine Gibbons to a 4-year probationary appointment as a special education teacher. Item C is a motion to appoint Michaela Johnson to a 4-year probationary appointment as a teaching assistant. Item D is a motion to appoint Leanne Johnson to the probationary position of school secretary. Item E is a motion to amend resolution for Kathleen Price as our per diem school psychologist. She was filling a role for a staff member out, and it just backdates her start date. Item F is a motion to appoint approve the appointment of Anthony Halliday for our summer intern, our technology intern. Item G is a motion to appoint Sophie Unkov to the position of summer intern. And then item H is a motion to approve the 2023-24 extracurricular co-curricular list. And item I is a motion to approve the 2023-24 coaches list and volunteer coaches list. And last is item J to approve the 2023-24 Jumpstart and STEM camp list.
Any questions? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the faculty staff memorandum of understanding consent agenda.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Lake George Central School District hereby approves the faculty staff memorandum of understanding consent agenda items A through B. Item A is a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between Lake George Central School District and the Lake George Staff Association regarding starting salaries for certain positions. Item B is a motion to approve the establishment of positions of the fishing club advisor.
Any questions? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the addendum to employment agreement for the superintendent of schools. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby extends the employment of John Luthringer as superintendent of schools to June 12th, 2028, and approves the addendum to the Superintendent Luthringer's contract dated June 13th, 2023, and further authorizes the board president to execute said addendum and authorizes payment thereunder.
So moved.
Any discussion? Any comments? Had a wonderful first year. We're looking forward to many more. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is Board of Education comments and discussion.
I have an actual question. It goes to something, John, that you talked about earlier, and it's the timing of the second part of the mascot
Mhm.
name.
Mhm.
So my concern is that the people who will be kind of most affected by this are the younger students, and I want to make sure that their vote really gets included because they'll be whatever this new name is for a long time, right? So sometimes it seems like when we do online surveys, the participation rate is a little bit low. And I didn't know if maybe having the target date be October 1st, so that maybe the little kids could vote in their classes in September would allow them to have better participation. Because I don't know how an elementary schooler during the summer is going to get their vote in. And they're like the most important vote to me anyway. So you could address that if that could be thought about.
No, thank you, Donna. That is something that certainly our student advisory group talked about. And we have had significant participation in our first survey. We did absolutely include grades 4 through 12 very systematically. We feel that, certainly we want our students involved and we can utilize, at this point, we discussed utilizing our Parent Square, make sure our students and our emailing, so students do have access to those throughout the summer. There are ways that we can ensure that they vote. But certainly that's something that we can take under advisement at our next student advisory committee meeting, which is on July 6th.
The first round was done in their classes, right? Am I correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
that's what I thought. Thanks.
Yes, correct.
Thanks.
Thank you, Donna. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a few comments and make the rest of the board aware that a few handful of community members have reached out to me with questions and conversation regarding the student gender identity policy. So Mr. Flanagan, I'm glad to see you in the audience tonight and that you spoke on the same topic. And I think a couple other, Janine and I think Mario, people reach out to you as well. And I've had the conversations that I've been able to have with people have been really positive. It's a complicated topic, and it's actually been a really great opportunity to provide factual information around the policy, explain some things about how policy is written, and the engagement has been really meaningful. And it's also been a good opportunity to just practice having this conversation on this topic, because it is a topic of our times. And Mr. Flanagan, you made it really clear, and I agree with you. It is complicated. Definitions alone, those should be the easy things, and they're not. They're complicated. And none of us are experts at this topic, but we're navigating it together. So, you know, to try to support us to, you know, the rest of the board and to be able to, you know, have these conversations more comfortably, I had drafted just like a list of, you know, like a fact sheet about the policy itself. And I just wanted to invite anybody who had comments. I hope it's helpful, and invite anybody who has any questions or comments about it, you know, for discussion.
Yeah, I appreciated the fact sheet, even though I'm on the policy committee, we've read our policy over and over again. Sometimes it's nice just to see things put in a different way, or to highlight certain points. And I especially appreciate the reminder that the policy provides a necessary framework for navigating the nuances, like you said, of this topic, not just for the students who have gender identity needs, but really for all students. And that speaks to me as a classroom teacher, because again, it's hard, I think, unless you are a classroom teacher, sometimes it's hard to understand where a classroom teacher is coming from, because again, and I know I've said this before, every student that walks through my door, every day, you just hope that they are safe, they feel welcome, and that they're okay. There are so many things that these young people are trying to, I don't know, manage in our world, including coming into school, always in the back of our minds that something dangerous can happen. And I know that's terrible, but that's the world we live in. And so, I mean, a policy like this, I think that's what I really want to make people understand from my point of view. It's not trying to make things uncomfortable for some people and not for others, et cetera. It is really there for all students. I don't know, anything that can help them feel more comfortable, every student as they walk through that door is so important. So
I'd like to just piggyback on that, Janine, because I was a school counselor for 28 years, and you think it's confusing for us to navigate, to go and navigate through gender identity issues. It's incredible for these students. And, you know, I think some people might think that, and I don't know, that kids might be doing this to get into girls' locker room or to do things like that, but the things that kids are managing today, it's really beyond what you ever imagined when you grew up. So I just want you to realize that as a board and as a school district, we never want to put anyone in an uncomfortable position. We wouldn't want the boy in the girls' locker room because the girls would be uncomfortable. So we are here for all students. I want to really be a board member that supports all students. And so I understand what they're going through. Well, only because I've worked with them, but you know, it's not an easy issue for anyone, including us, including you, and including the student. Thanks.
And, you know, I think that this is an example, our mascot name change is an example of changing times, changing norms. And we need to take care of our students where they are. That's our primary goal, but we also need to take care of our staff, our community. And with these changing norms, these topics that have such nuance to them and understanding, and this is what I think is so important for our professionals to have some practice, having these conversations without being condemned, without being told they're wrong, without some sort of a polarizing pressure, that we have forums where they have spaces to ask questions themselves, to develop talking points so that we can take care of our community members, our parents, our families, our students, so that we have the language to speak to these things so that we're not inciting further fear. We're demonstrating care. We're demonstrating knowledge and reassurance. And I think sometimes when controversial topics come forward, we move away from them instead of leaning into them because it could be disruptive to have controversy. It could be disruptive to have different opinions. And yet I do think it's important to lean into that and have some spaces. And so, John, I guess I would, and you don't need to explain it now, but I think it would be helpful for us to know that there are development opportunities or spaces where our educators are feeling free to have these conversations and to develop the language. Because, you know, here we can talk about policy and policies here, but when it comes into practice and when it comes into day-to-day conversation with our stakeholders, it's really our educators on the front lines that have the most impact.
Just make one other comment just about the policy. I mean, our commitment to students exists whether we have a policy on this topic or not. Whether we have a policy or not, these are our times. And I give credit to the group who, worked on this policy back in 2016 and were proactive about, providing some guidance and an approach, because when you don't have, without it, you're just going freestyle. And I think when you go freestyle, there is risk. There's the risk of doing harm is higher. And so thank you to the people who customized that policy in a really nice way for Lake George.
Anything else? Ready to do? Okay. So, well, you go ahead. Say it. We have this next little piece. We have some thank yous that we want to present right now with a little token of gratitude for some of the folks here at our table. Yeah, bring it out and then. So first, we don't know what we would do without Sarah, who, when she's at the table, seems very, it's quiet. And I mean, she's not in the background because she's right here, but we could not function without Sarah in small ways and big ways. So thank you so much, Sarah. And next, we've heard from multiple folks this evening about Lynn Durway, and I echo all of the things she has given us with such grace and efficiency. And I give you kudos, Lynn, because I have a reputation for asking a lot of questions. And at the audit and finance meetings, I have very few questions because you answered them before I could even ask them. So I appreciate that. You have a gift for explaining things that are can be complicated topics to people who to the layperson for the audit and finance realm. And you have really done a great job in helping us understand so that we can make really solid financial decisions for the district. So thank you. And thank you for laying the groundwork for our future. We really appreciate it. And you're going to be missed very much. And you've mentored and left us in good hands with Bonnie. So thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lynn. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, last but not least, we have something for our superintendent, John Luthringer. It has been a wonderful first year. It's hard to believe that your first anniversary is a couple weeks away, and we look forward to many more years ahead. So thank you very much for your commitment to us now and going forward.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. I had the pleasure, this has been a real pleasure to get to know certainly the Board of Education, but our staff, our faculty, our community. It's been great. It's a wonderful place. Looking forward to year 2, 3, 4, and the rest. So we've got a lot of great work ahead of us. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I want to mention just quickly, we're not going to see the last of Lynn, maybe at the board table, but Lynn is going to stay on and mentor and be a support for Bonnie and certainly us next year as well. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think so. Because we're excited about it.
I hope it's chocolate. It's chocolate.
It's not edible.
Lake George tie. Wonderful.
Yeah. It's a one,
That's perfect.
one and only.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a
Yes,
unique
thank
item
you.
there.
I needed, that's perfect.
It's custom.
Thank
Yeah. When you go around sporting that thing, John, there's just gonna be,
I'll
people
wear
are
it
gonna
tomorrow.
want it. Okay, so do we have any other items in this category? Thank you. The next item is our second public comment. And we have one person, and again, if for some reason you didn't have an opportunity to sign up and you do have a public comment, you are welcome to do that. We have one person signed up, and Linda Clark.
Linda Clark, resident of Lake George. This is a summary of a more comprehensive letter I'll give to you at the end. I'm requesting that the district formally legally investigate 2 people for illegally voting at the 2022 and 2023 school board elections, violating board policy and New York State education laws. Both people live full-time in Glens Falls and do not live in their seasonal address. Even if both tried to claim that they were living in a seasonal house during the intermittent times of the year, according to education law, they have been living in their residence. They had to be living in their residence 30 days prior to the vote. This would have been impossible because there is no central heating or insulation and no foundation to the house, making it uninhabitable prior to the elections when temperatures sometimes dip below 30 degrees in the evenings. After the 2022 election, the district was notified regarding their illegal voting status. While walking into the 23 election, the husband was told by Lisa Doster, a neighbor who can attest to the residency as well as myself, that he was not eligible to vote. He entered the voting area anyway, and prior to voting, it was my understanding that Sarah Barton and Mr. Lutheringer discussed his eligibility to vote. He signed a legal affidavit swearing that he lived in the seasonal residence. I was later informed on the evening of the vote that his vote would be counted. It is my understanding that when his wife later showed up to vote, she was not questioned or required to sign an affidavit. I shared a similar letter and information with Warren County Sheriff's Office, and I had an extensive meeting with Officer Keir. It was determined that they could not pursue the complaint because the affidavit was sworn to the Lake George School District. Consequently, they said that the district must initiate the complaint with the sheriff, and then they would be willing to conduct a legal investigation. Voting from non-residential seasonal homes is illegal. It is also egregious. What is also egregious is the fact that people who claim seasonal homes as residents are actually receiving significant tax breaks and do not pay the full school tax that anyone else would be expected to pay. They are cheating the children, the district, and the community. These people are also disenfranchising legal residents in the district and taking away their voice at elections and budget votes. I ask that this letter and all attachments be submitted as part of the legal record for June 13th, 2023 meeting. And I also request in 14 calendar days, a written decision regarding the district's position on this issue and what action the district will take to rectify this problem. As you know, in my verified petition last year, there were 47 people voting from seasonal and vacant land residences. This year, there's 20. You'll see in your new verified petition. You need to do something about this problem.
Thank you, Linda. Is there anyone who didn't sign?
Lisa Doster, resident of the district. Thank you, Lynn, so much for your service here in the school. It's much appreciated. As for the gender policy, I would like to commend the staff from 2016 or the BOE who wrote the policy. It actually was a very good functioning policy. This new policy creates a lot of ambiguity and I don't know, doesn't really guide us in the direction we need to go. And this new policy wasn't even written by us. It was written by Erie One BOCES. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'm just curious, Marianne, about the review of it, because I did not think there was an extensive review of
It
of
is
the
this,
policy.
it is the policy that was, Erie One BOCES provided a template for that policy, I think, because there are policy services, but in 2016, when the district was looking to adopt this policy, they customized, they took the template and they customized it. And that is the policy that we have on the books right now, with the exception of last year, we had a revision. Excuse me, I'm speaking. We had a revision that was based on a change in the law that affected the record keeping portion of the policy. And I think that was the only thing that was changed. It's essentially the same policy. Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification.
Is there any other folks for public comment? Okay, thank you.
President, may I reply to your comments?
You can come up yes, for public comment. Yes, you have three minutes.
Bob Flanagan again. I was not speaking about students. I was not speaking about the necessity to provide special accommodations to transgender students. Listen to my words. I was speaking about your words in the definition. Your words are vague. I was not speaking about the necessity of a policy. I was not speaking about whether I approve such a policy or not. I was speaking about your words in the definition. Because your words are vague, automatically the Supreme Court says the policy is void, period. Listen to my words, please.
Thank you, Bob. Is there any other comments? Next item on the agenda is the proposed executive session. As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby proposes entering into executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular employee, and we do not anticipate coming back into open session. So thank you. Thank you for being here this evening. Pardon? Oh, sorry. I need a sorry.
So moved.
Second.
To vote on that. Any questions? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you, Sarah, for keeping me straight here.